Hello there, and welcome everybody to.
Kenobi. Wow.
Are you really surprised at this point? Uh, hey everybody, and welcome to the another Star Wars Enthusiast podcast, the podcast show based on originally the inspiration behind the live stream you catch every Monday. Today I'm super excited to be back once again with one of my best friends. He was here last week, I guess. I've got Spencer Monti here, guys. Hey, how you doing,
I've
buddy?
changed shirts.
You changed shirts.
Hi. Also, I got this lightsaber, and I've now realizing it makes a lot of noise, so it's gonna go back down over here.
Okay.
Stay there. Okay. Hi. It's me. It's Spencer. I like Star Wars.
How
and
you
all
doing,
things
buddy?
Star Wars. I want to be a space wizard. I'm doing fantastic. I've got a bag of sugar that I'm not eating. It's for my tea. I'm just like, well, that comes across weird. I've got this bag of sugar.
Yo, let's just
It's for my
wire
tea.
this guy up before we start.
Yeah, well, I already had some decaf coffee, and I'm already like, woo! So
Well, why don't you
that's
tell us a little
decaf.
bit about yourself? Just remind everybody who you are.
Well, I'm a big nerd that live streams and like Star Wars. I've watched all of the Star Wars things except for the holiday um special, and have played all of the Star Wars games except Jedi Fallen Order because it's expensive. Um, and yeah, I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was a wee lad. I think like like 4 or 5. I think is what I the first movie I watched, which is gonna make many of you cringe, is Episode 1, Phantom Menace. But I love it so much because of that. Because the first scene I ever got was them jabbing lightsabers through that door. That's the scene that is ingrained in my mind. That's the coolest. That's the coolest lightsaber scene. That's not a fight in the entirety of the show.
Well, I respect you for the defense of the first movie there. Okay, well today we're gonna not be talking about anything to do with the canon though, so get ready, guys. This is a Legends episode. We've got 2 canon ones out so far, but today I'm really excited to kick off the Legends category. Today we're talking about all the stuff that after Disney bought Star Wars became no longer part of the EU, and we're talking about because of all of the latest announcements so far. By the way, there's been a lot of them. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but Disney's been throwing up a bunch of stuff about The Mandalorian Season 2, and it got me all jazzed up. But because a lot of my previous information comes from the old Legends stuff, today we're talking about Mandalorians. Mandalorians. Who the hell were they? Mandalorians and Legends are still pretty close to the stuff we're getting in the canon, with a couple of major differences, I would argue. You know, throughout their history, they've been a very warring planet and species and everything, and that's just been their nature. But their new canon has a little more pacifism in it. There's another side of that too, though. They were once a species called the Tong, which were part of the warring planet of Coruscant's original peoples. There were 13 human clans and the Tong humanoids that were fighting as well. When Coruscant began to become more civilized and everything like that, there was a mass exodus, and Mandalore the First actually brought the Tong off of Coruscant to the planet that would eventually become Mandalore. Throughout their history, they've always been warriors of incredible honor and incredible skill. So very much what you would consider to be the traditional way of looking at. I'm just watching you use that sugar, thinking like, when's he gonna eat a spoonful?
I'm not gonna eat a spoonful.
Okay.
I'm closing the bag up.
Okay.
I see. Okay, so I wouldn't do the spoonful of sugar, but I do have some strawberry simple syrup, which occasionally I have been going by and just like pouring a bit in my hand, just licking my hand and walking away.
Sorry, I got off topic real quick, but guys, we're talking about
super quick.
Mandalorians.
And strawberry simple syrup.
Yes, the 2 finest things in life.
The Mandalorians are a species of John Wick.
That's essentially what they've always been. Yeah, that's what I was building to.
Yeah.
Actually, they're basically a bunch of John Wicks that created everything that we know and love about some of the most militaristic things of the Star Wars galaxy. Like, I think of Mandalore, and the first thing I think of immediately is the helmet. Pretty sure everyone thinks the same way I do. That T-shaped visor, you'll see it, you'll know it immediately. You don't even have to think about it. You're like, oh, hey, that's a Mandalorian. Or, oh, hey, that's a Boba Fett. By the way, I'm going to get into this in more depth later, but Clan Fett was a Mandalorian clan. Look up your legend shit. That's where I'm starting with that, but I'm going to go back to the initial thing. Spencer, how much do you know of Mandalore's history?
I know enough of a Mandalore's history to not go, oh hey, that's a Mandalorian, but to go, oh hey, that's.
I mean, that's what I was kind of counting on. I was expecting you to get really excited whenever you see it, right? Okay, so
I'm excited and scared for my life.
yes.
It's a nice combo of those two things.
Well, it's interesting that you say scared for your life because I used to use Mandalorians in like role playing games and stuff like that when I ran Star Wars: Edge of the Empire and things like that. And every time a
Yeah.
Mandalorian shows up, all of my players are like, "We leave."
Yeah.
Like, but the story. No, we leave the building.
Cool
We don't stay.
Mandalorian stuff, and they're just like, no, we have survival instincts that are telling us that this man, woman, or other is going to completely wreck our butts just by looking at us. Like, that's it. That's all they have to do.
Well, okay, so let's break that down. Let's break down what is the inspiration behind the fear that everyone has as a survival instinct of Mandalorians. So, first of all, let's talk about the Tong. What were the Tong? The Tong were a species of humanoids that were, one of their nicknames was the frickin' Shadow Warriors. Like, we're talking Predator. These guys were like, they even look like Predator. I'm going to probably be throwing up a piece of the art or something like that, but they look like the friggin' Predators.
I'm looking that up right
Yeah,
now.
do it. Look up a Tong right now, and it's Taung.
I did not spell that right.
Yeah, they look
And
like the friggin'
I
Predator.
got something that was not the right thing. I think I got a racial slur.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But yeah,
oh, God! How
See?
did those turn into humans?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because Mandalore originally was it was a planet that was established by the Tong. They didn't turn into humans. Humans were adopted by the Tong eventually, and because the Tong did a large amount of expansion. If we look at Mandalore's history, we look at the Mandalorian Crusaders. We're looking at an invasion force that would just go to planets and take them over.
They were the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and they were about 20 times as effective, I would argue.
A lot land. It. Yeah.
Like, if we look at the Crusaders...
They weren't going for spice. They were going for land,
mm-hmm.
and land, and land.
Resources, people, and land. And they were very thorough. We're not talking, like, wipe out the population kind of thorough, but we were talking about if there was a population of dominant species, that population was not the dominant species when the Mandalorians were done.
The Mandalorians made everyone in the galaxy subs.
The ultimate Doms, the Mandalorian people.
Ultimate Doms.
But yeah,
we're not talking about Domino's and Subway.
That's for sure. But like, let's look at that for a second, though. We're talking about, the Mandalorian Crusaders as an invasion force. That leads to like a huge chain of the Mandalorian Wars, which is them just going planet to planet to planet, being like, mine, 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 also mine. Oh, that's mine too. And they're just taking all of this extra space. The only reason they stop, the Jedi or the Sith. Consistently throughout Mandalorian history, the only thing that ever slows them down is a goddamn force wielder.
Or if you will, a Jith. I don't think anyone will. Nobody wanted that word.
No. What?
That made me uncomfortable to say.
Okay, so why were the Mandalorians ever stopped by force wielders? Well, not everyone's perfect. Everyone has a weakness, right? Everyone has that kryptonite.
Space wizards are everyone's weakness.
That's where I was actually building to. Like, that is the ultimate weakness. The space wizard is the weakness.
They have undefinable powers. The second you have Mary Poppins level undefinable powers, you are a god.
So, okay, we're talking about a galaxy of John Wicks, a planet of John Wicks that has been invading planet after planet. So we've got, a million John Wicks wearing almost indestructible armor with the perfect rebreathing system and finely tuned homemade weapons that are going planet to planet to planet. And then they encounter an army of Mary Poppins, of like 100 Mary Poppins. So we got 100 Mary Poppins against 1,000 John Wicks, and Mary Poppins wins.
Planet of Jedi, wasn't
there? There was. The planet of the Jedi belonged to. Yes, they were called the Jedi during the Mandalorian Wars. They weren't Jedi. They were the Jedi.
That's the same thing with calling Vaz and Vase. So
I agree
with you. Definitely call it Vaz. Like when you have the opportunity to say Jedi, you say Jedi.
Yeah. But
Because
they are
otherwise
the
you're
same thing.
kicked.
Like, and so they basically they get stopped by the Jedi because the Jedi refused to get involved. They were the original Peacekeeper space wizards. They didn't want to get involved. But when Mandalore took over their 14th planet, they're like, okay, we should probably stop these guys because they're starting to make a real mess. Oh boy.
Yeah, peace is no longer existing.
Mm-mm.
So
So we see the end of the Mandalorian Wars, and we go through at this point a series of different title advancements. So like I talked about Mandalore the First already. Mandalore the First is the guy who leads Mandalore to exist in the first place. He's a Tong, and he creates Mandalore. Can we just talk about the list of names though? Because I've got a couple of the subtitles attached to Mandalore the First, of course, but then there's the Indomitable who leads the Mandalorian army during the Mandalorian Wars. He's literally called Mandalore the Indomitable. That seems like what's the term for saying the same thing twice?
just repetition.
Yeah, I think it's repetition.
Yeah.
So that seems a little repetitive to call him Mandalore the Indomitable.
Watch the plot twist there, though, be that he's actually a sub. Whole time. Okay, that's the last kink joke I'll probably make for the next 20 minutes.
I was going to say, I don't think it's going to be the last one for the episode, but...
This is the last one for a little bit, because otherwise it gets overdone.
A little too redundant is... whatever. But there is something I want to point out, is that eventually...
Like Mandalore the Indomitable.
Oh my god.
Redundancy.
Mandalore the Indomitable did lose. Like,
so he was
lost.
Domitable. The plot twist was that he was a sub! Yeah!
He did eventually.
I didn't even know that going in. I was just right.
He did eventually lose, and it was.
My neighbors hate me.
I don't think your neighbors can hate you anymore. They probably just have to get used to you at this point.
Yeah. No. I think we got a new one on this side. So the old ones that hated us are gone, and then there's these new ones. It's like I don't mind them. I don't think they mind us. There's just a lot of dum 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 that goes on that house because of the two kids just like full tilt sprinting in this very. You've seen my house.
Oh yeah.
It's an exact clone, and I guarantee there's like 8-year-old children just going full tilt into a wall every day.
Like, I mean, that's pretty much what it sounds like here. I got two kids living upstairs too, and it's.
But I feel like they have more space to run around upstairs.
You'd think, but I still hear them all day.
No, I know. Like you'll still hear them, but I feel like just like conceptually though, think about a kid running full tilt in the they got the hallway. That's they got in my house. Whereas the upstairs in your place, I'm imagining has more than a single hallway you can run back and forth.
Yeah, fair enough. But what I will say then, let's get back on task for just a second. let's for a quick second, let's talk about the progression of titles through Mandalore, because Mandalore's I really like these titles. Like Mandalore the First, Mandalore the Indomitable, Mandalore the Ultimate. Yeah, that was the next one, Mandalore the Ultimate. Because let's once again throw a repetition name together.
Yeah. I've learned that ultimate in today's day and age doesn't mean what everybody thinks ultimate means.
Not anymore.
No. I have an ultimate resistance band that isn't the biggest resistance band that I own. Which the next one up is extreme.
Well, the next one after that was the Preserver, so I don't think they were trying to do anything expansion-wise anymore. They were mostly just trying to keep themselves going.
Guys, help. We need 2 seconds of not pillaging. 2 seconds, please.
Well, and then their last one that I have for a title list was the Lesser. Although, interestingly enough, Mandalore the Lesser was a gladiator in the friggin' Coruscant pits who rose through the ranks and took over the Mandalorian people.
Is he also a Tong?
No, he was human.
When did these switch to humans after?
Actually, Mandalore the Indomitable was human. In fact,
so it was right away. They're just like Mandalore the First. Oh, I see what happened. The freaking humans screwed up the naming system.
You figured it out.
We're so dumb. We're just like, hey, Mandalore the First. Yeah, okay, so you're going to be Mandalore the Second? Is the human just like, no, I'm Mandalore the Indomitable. The guy's just like, wait, aren't you a sub? No!
Also, yes.
And he lost.
Well, he didn't lose quickly, though. He did take over a whole bunch of systems. He was the leader behind the Mandalorian Wars. He did do a lot of fucking work. Let's give him the credit.
I'm sorry, I did say I would stop with the kink jokes, but
no, it's too late.
Coming up.
It's
You're
too
saying
late.
he was a brat. Like
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
like he was still a sub, but he was a bratty sub. He
Yeah,
wouldn't lose right away.
no, he was leading the Crusaders at the time. Like he led the first expansion Crusaders. So he does have a lot attached to him. You know, he's got a lot riding on that kind of a name. When you're calling yourself the Indomitable, people are like,
Yeah.
this guy is a leader. We follow this guy. And to his credit, he did do a lot of good work, I guess, for the Mandalorian culture. Like he led them to some serious wins. But that's about it, really, because the Mandalorians eventually did lose. They get driven back, and now they're stuck on Mandalore again, which is, I mean, not that big of a deal. They end up with like the whole Mandalore system. They're all over all of the planets. In the original Legends stuff, they've got like 8 or something like that. You know, we got Concord Dawn, but you've also got Shogun. You've also got like 4 or 5 other planets that I'm blanking on right now. Like they've got a bunch of little planets, and the Mandalore system is completely full of Mandalorians. All of them.
I like how you use the term little planets. Like having more than one planet is not like already a big deal. Because
yeah,
we have one planet, and it's kind of hard to deal with. They had 8.
They
you
had
kidding me?
They had a few.
We have 1. We can barely manage 1. These humans are managing 8.
Well, they're not just humans. There's also, you know, the Tong. There's also Zeltrons, and there's Twi'leks, and there's
Yeah, but
Togruta.
evidently the humans kicked the Tong's butt and became the
They didn't.
Mandalore Prime.
Remember, the Tong eventually die out, but they die out due to the fact that they're not just reproducing as fast as humans do, because let's be honest, we fuck like rabbits, and that's a problem. We deal with overpopulation issues all over the place. What?
Go with the whole concept of replacing problem with opportunity in that sentence. It's
That's
a
true.
reproduction opportunity, and that's why Mandalore is all human now.
Well, eventually, instead of it being like a race, it becomes a culture, right? That's how we end up with all the different species being involved. The Mandalorian culture is very much honor-based, but it's also very proud of its heritage, right? We see that even in the new canon stuff. That's one of the things that carried over from Legends to canon. They're very proud of their heritage. They're very proud of their culture. They put a lot of emphasis on family and clan honor. And that's why we see names like Clan Fett, Clan Kryze, Clan Ren. They're all important. They are all the driving force behind the people. They have their clan, they have their loyalty, and they're honor bound. So the clan they are connected to is who they are bound to, and they will always stand up for the clan. The clan comes first. The enemy will always lose. That's it. It's Sparta. It's Space Sparta.
As it should be.
Absolutely.
Space Sparta is yeah, and it makes sense that the only opposition to Space Sparta is Space Wizards.
I mean, that was
like watch 300 and you're just like, that dude had magic powers, and then Sparta fell.
That's what it takes, though. It takes wizardry. It takes
magic,
wizardry.
yeah.
So Space Wizards beats Space Sparta. Okay, so that's one thing we've landed on today.
And if any of you are thinking, oh, well, magic's just technology that we don't understand. No! The Jedi are space wizards.
With real magic.
Damn word about it. It's real magic.
If we talk about the Force for a second, we also see, like, space witches being a thing. Like, we have the Night Sisters of Dathomir that are literally practicing a variant of the Force that is magic. They're space wizards. End of discussion. What it takes to beat Space Sparta is space wizards. Space John Wick beaten by Space Mary Poppins.
Necromancers, actually.
Space wizard, space witch, space necromancer, all the same thing at this point, really. They all practice the same bit of space magic.
Well, there is a drastic difference between necromancing and necromancing.
Really?
I could have also gone with the well, the space necromancers raise a family one way, and the space wizards raise a family a much slower way. That's why the Jedi died, and the Dathomir sisters died. You know.
I mean, I think that joke was a little more subtle. Anyway.
Yeah, but I was going with the kink.
Yeah, I know you were. You just like, it hasn't even been 20 minutes, dude. You've made like 12.
I know. I'm really bad at keeping promises about kinks. Or sorry, I'll rephrase. I'm really bad about keeping promises about not talking about kinks. That's to be more specific.
I accept this about you.
All right. So Mandalorians.
To Mandalorians of Legends. Okay, so let's go into because I was talking about the bridging point a little bit between the canons and the Legends stuff being, their belief in culture and family and stuff like that. I want to talk about the Mandalorian culture because quite a lot of it was based on war and physical prowess. Like, let's look at the name list again, just because it screams at me. The first, the indomitable, the ultimate, the preserver. Like, it's all about we are warriors, we are soldiers, we are a warring culture, and it's what we do. We see it in all the variants of all the different wars, all the variants in the developments of armor and weapons. Like, they have their own specialized metal they harvested from Mandalore, Beskar, which, interestingly enough, fun fact, bit of Mandalorian language trivia for you there. Beskar in Mandoan, which is the native tongue of Mandalore, or Mandoa, sorry, literally translates to armor. That's what it means. Beskar just means armor. So they made the material Beskar that they built the armor out of was lightsaber proof, is blaster proof, and if it weren't for the fact that they could be slowed down by Jedi mind tricks, probably could have been force proof too. But they had to lose somehow. So space wizardry. Apparently, that can still go through most metals.
Well, yeah, telekinesis, in my opinion, or in my experience, can generally go through most metals.
Yeah, that's what it's
because when you can just get yeeted off a cliff, like, I don't care what armor you're wearing.
It's true. Actually, heavier stuff's probably worse for you. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, I'm curious now. Worse. I'm curious now. When you say like yeeted off a cliff, do you think that's why they developed jetpacks? They were getting yeeted off too many cliffs by space wizards. What?
Answers that we are not ready for. Padawan.
Well, I'm definitely curious.
Freaking jetpacks because they kept getting yeeted? Is everything in the Star Wars universe just about people getting yeeted?
I mean, we got an entire movie off of a lightsaber getting yeeted, so you tell me.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, to have been yeeted implies to me that it's a problem that must be addressed. If it happens more than once, it's definitely a genuine issue. So you develop something to deal with the yeet.
I was a bit worried that you were going to use the past tense of yeet there.
To yote?
Yes.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
And now I've used it. There you go.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just like, don't do it. Then you didn't, and I was like, oh, thank God. But now I have to mention it. Yeah, no, I can see that's why they have jetpacks. I mean, unless there's something specifically in the lore about why they have jetpacks, which I feel like I hope is more than they were just getting yeeted.
There probably was, but what's interesting is they just never really, as far as I could find anyways, and trust me, I've done a lot of research on this, so if someone actually hits me with where the jetpacks came from, please do. But it could very well have just been a response to their situation being that they weren't winning, or they needed an advantage they didn't have. If we actually look at the fact that they were able to take down the great mythosaur dragon-like creatures of Mandalore without those jetpacks, like they did it with not blunt weapons, but they did it with spears made of rocks and sticks. Like, they were very capable warriors with or without these jetpacks. The jetpacks could have just been a military advancement they made to give them more advantage in a combat situation.
Well, exactly. Like, they can go mano a mano with a Jedi. Like, if the Mandalorian, any Mandalorian, it doesn't even have to be like a big bad, right? They just have to have the black saber.
The dark saber, yeah.
Thank you.
Which I want to talk about in a minute, but yeah, they can go toe to toe.
They just have to have that, and we've seen just like general hand to hand, and Jedi we know have precognition for fighting. So Mandalorians can get around freaking precognition with their skills. Like, that's next level nonsense.
Well,
like
I think that stems from the exposure they've had for all these centuries at this point. We're talking thousands of years of Mandalorians fighting against and losing to space wizards. It's like, okay, every time they lose, they come up with a new way to fight back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it just goes to show, like, their training surpasses the ability to perceive the future.
Yeah.
Like, just if you let that marinate for a second, you're just like, okay, maybe they're also their own version of Space Wizard, you know?
Well, that's actually a thing I wanted to touch on briefly, is because there have been Mandalorians in the history of the Star Wars universe, in Legends, that have had force powers. Like, so let's take away...
Who made the dark saber also have force powers?
Yes, he did. They had to, but the dark saber crystal, I can't remember the storyline behind, but I think it's actually like a specific kind that could only be found in the heart of a mythosaur or something like that. I thought.
Yeah.
I might be blanking on that and
It's
getting it all
something
wrong,
crazy like that.
but like that's the thing. In order to build a lightsaber, you have to understand what it is to wield the force.
We got to do one of these on lightsaber construction.
Oh, absolutely.
Mythology.
Don't worry, I will get into that in a while too. Like that's going to be a big thing. But like, if we look at, since we're talking about weapon and armor development, like let's also look at the weapons they built. The Westar 34 and 35 blaster pistols, their Westar blaster carbines, and everything like that. They built their own ships. We see that in the new canon and in Legends alike. Like, these guys have been developing technology for war. They can outfight,
And their ships are beastly.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
they have thick armor, man. It's because they're not building it with Durasteel like everyone else in the galaxy. They're building it with Beskar in some cases.
No. Well, like even more to that point, like if you watch the newest season of Clone Wars, you get to see a lot more of their ships. Those ships' design is incredible. Like specifically for landing and takeoff, they're designed so that they can land, drop off like a small regiment of troops, because that's all you need for Mandalorians, and then get the heck out of Dodge, get back into the aerial fight, get back in, because of that whole turn system that they have. That is the only functional turn system in all of Star Wars, is the only logical point of a ship, and don't at me.
No, I agree with you, but look at the fire spray. The fire spray ship that is the Slave One, same idea in the design. It has it has a rotating system. Its stabilizers are a folding system. The deployment is a drop. So if you have a jetpack, you don't care. You literally just drop out of the cargo bay, slam on the jetpack, and you're there. Like the only ship that I would say is like super un-Mandalorian is the ship from the Mandalorian. But I would argue that's because that ship is not a Mandalorian ship.
No, because Mandalore at that point is
gone.
Like,
it's been purged.
Glass. Yeah. So you're not going to see too many like proper Mandalorian ships around. Plus, it's a single guy, so it doesn't really make sense for him to have the need for that kind of ship, because he's not going to autopilot it.
God no.
And drop out. That's how you lose your ship.
Yeah, I mean it's already been stripped to nothing before in the series, so.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's like, but like you compare it to like a Republic dropship, and you're like.
Well, the Republic. Let's look at the Republic dropship for just a quick second. The Republic dropship was designed to drop military personnel immediately onto the ground, and it's meant to be a kind of a brush the ground thing. But it's designed like you'd find a military vehicle in our militaries. Yeah, it's not designed to take all of the abilities of space combat and deploying on the fly, and it doesn't even take advantage of jetpack capabilities, because we know the clones have those in the Clone Wars series. We've seen it.
Yeah, they're just not utilized regularly.
No. Because it's not part of their training. The Mandalorian jetpacks, though, we see are a part of the training.
Part of their training.
Yeah. They're trained to use jetpacks. They're trained to use all kinds of close quarter weapons. They're trained in martial arts. They're trained in blasters of all size, shape, and design. They're trained in range finding and taking advantage of their heads-up displays and their helmets.
But you can see the difference between the clone army, which, like, a lot of people shit on like the clone army and the stormtroopers, but realistically, they were really good soldiers in the grand scheme. Like, you watch the Clone Wars and you're like, oh god, like, especially them locking down the ship in the last season there. That was military prowess. Like, if they weren't against two space wizards, also that Darth Maul scene though, but two space wizards, they would have absolutely apprehended everybody they needed to. It's just, again, you're against practically God, so you kind of got that. So, but you look at, so you compare an army that was built and bred for war by a culture of non-warring people. And the Sith themselves, like the Sith race, if you're going outside of current canon and such, fine, yes, they're a warlike species, blah, 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 blah. But the Sith, with respect to the master-apprentice relationship, are not a warring people. They're a control. Their whole thing is about control, and that's very different from war. So an entire army built from that culture. And then you look at Mandalorians, which are a society, basically a militia. Like, they are an army of sorts, but there's no, when you look at it, there is in the wars that they fought, but when you look at it day to day, it's more of a militia. And they operate more like a militia. you look at that and their whole culture, and they are drastically more capable than an army built for war.
Well, it's actually
You know?
interesting though because Jango Fett, Clan Fett in Legends is actually like a bread and butter Mandalorian clan. It's been around since Mandalore the Indomitable. It's friggin' one of the Fett clan members was the immediate lieutenant to Mandalore the Ultimate. Like,
Yeah.
we're looking at Clan Fett in the new canon stuff is he's not even Mandalorian in some story senses. Jango found Mandalorian armor and just stole it. No. In the Legends version, Clan Fett was a incredible, in fact, one of the figureheads of the military movements that Mandalore made. So let's take, for example, that version of it, the Legends version, and let's make an army of clones that have his DNA. Jango Fett, the soldier,
Yeah.
is the source,
Is the framework for the clones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's
and yet
now.
they're still not as capable
They
as
can't
the
be.
Mandalorian people.
They literally can't be because it's only one guy's experience. So
Well,
if you created a clone army, yeah,
I don't think the clones' brains were Jango's.
They weren't.
I don't think they were cloned.
They were reprogrammed completely. But if we take
No. I think it's more than that because
Oh.
I don't think like if you look at the clones' behavior
Mhm.
and you look at Jango's behavior, like what Jango didn't seem like something a Mandalorian would do.
And that's why people are decanonizing his Mandalorian status.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
well, 'cause,
he
like-
doesn't act very Mandalorian. He acts far outside the culture that's being developed around it.
Yeah, but just because one guy doesn't act Mandalorian doesn't mean he's not Mandalorian.
Well,
like,
even in the Mandalorian Legend stuff, he got kicked out. So
yeah, well, like but it doesn't mean he's not like he wasn't. I guess.
he was a Mandalorian military commander.
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid to just go, oh, he wasn't a real Mandalorian. It's like, no, like we didn't. He was up against literally the best space wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Like objectively, the one that
one of the top three.
Chosen one.
One of the top three.
Yeah, well, sorry, I'll rephrase. The in canon best space wizard.
Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan Kenobi is drastically more powerful than Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Because Anakin reached the height of his power in episode 3. Like he still did amazing acts after that as Vader.
Yeah.
But like he was in his prime. And he got his ass whooped.
Well,
like without even thinking about it by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Like that's the thing.
Just completely whooped.
If we're talking about that fight on Mustafar real quick, I will quickly bridge onto that. That fight on Mustafar, if you look at the action that Anakin made with the whole flipping over Obi-Wan, trying to rip Obi-Wan in half, Obi-Wan is the guy who he cemented that move when he beat Maul.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why he knew how to counter it.
Yeah.
Because he did that move. He knows that move.
But like minus that one instance of Anakin getting cut in half, like Obi-Wan definitely had I was going to say the high ground, the advantage in the fight for the entirety of the fight. Like he wasn't like,
well, he wasn't trying to kill him.
No, and that's the other thing. That's so much harder when you're fighting somebody. If you're not trying to kill them and you're in a fight to the death, it's so much harder to win.
Yes, it is.
And
when you're trying to pull your punches, it's so much worse.
Readily won, like without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
And so you see, and like that's you might come down to, okay, well that doesn't come to his forced powers. It does, because that goes back to the precognition stuff.
Yeah.
Who's sort of better at that, and so going back to with the Mandalore, yeah, you can whine about Jango not being as tough as a bit, but he didn't have the Darksaber. He didn't have any advantages besides his generic Mandalorian stuff.
But he's using Mandalorian Westar 34s, which, let's be honest, those pistols pack a punch. We can see that in the range he gets. We can see that we can even see that when that one Jedi just lands in front of Dooku and he just goes pop, 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 and the guy falls off. That's 3 shots from a blaster pistol. Blaster pistols don't have that much kick. The only other one that has that is the DL-44 heavy blaster pistol. Like, it has to have it, and it's a light pistol.
Yeah.
It's just as effective as a heavy one, and he can spin it around his finger, like, unbelievably fast. He is completely comfortable. These weapons are designed to perfectly work for the ultimate soldiers. It gives them every
It's just
unfair advantage.
hard to counter with a lights. It's like hard to get around a lightsaber still.
Hmm.
So yeah. So you look at Django, and he's I think he's still physically a um a powerful Mandalorian soldier. But I don't think they took his brain.
I actually, now that you've like kind of pointed it out, I'm actually really inclined to agree with you.
I don't
Because
know whose brain they would have taken, if any, because we're also talking about complete neurological reprogramming. They could have just made a brain,
they probably did.
which would make more sense than taking something to reprogram instead of just making something that you can program.
Well, breeding a
And
new
that would
synapse system would
explain,
make sense.
yeah, and that would explain the drastic personality differences of the clone troopers. Because in a process such as that, mass producing it,
Hmm.
and this just comes down to statistics and accounting. I'll thank you. Um, but it basically, when you mass produce something that big, there's that percentage of error, and I don't care how good your systems are, they might have a 0.000001% chance, and that's kind of what we see.
Yeah.
And we see those 0.000001 deviations becoming Commander Rex, becoming Captain Cody, the whole, I think I got the ranks right there, the whole
It's
nine
Commander
yards
Cody
there.
as well in the end, but
Oh yeah, he gets promoted.
yeah.
Yep.
Like that's the thing. You're right though. You're absolutely right. The deviations are the ones that become leaders, and we know that Django. I would actually argue that's a little more of Django coming through in the design, just because Django was a commander. He was a battlefield commander, and he understands thinking a little differently. But not enough of his personality would come through. Just his rationale and his thinking.
It could be the reason that I think it's not his brain is because if you look at the personalities of those clones and you look at the rationale and thinking, it's not one, in my opinion, it's not one of Mandalorians. Like the tactics is there, but the
Yeah.
tactics you can program. You can
Oh, easily.
program the art of war into somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like given the constraints of what we're working with right now. But the actual personalities of a caring about Jedi, like that's a big one right there. I don't think Django or any Mandalorian, unless there's some drastic thing that happens with the Jedi, which we see in the Clone Wars, is physically capable of caring about Jedi because of what they've done to the people.
I
Like
actually
that
want
would
to agree
be,
with you there immediately. Like that's
yeah.
makes perfect sense.
And so if you did use Django's brain and reprogrammed it, and there was those flaws, I think there would be a reasonable assumption to see that Jedi would not be listened to. They would not be in control of these of the deviated clone troopers because they would not respect them. There would be some bias in their neural pathways to just not respect the Jedi or to constantly want to be combative with them in some sense.
Yeah,
And
like it's
while it is
yeah.
good to have soldiers that question their commanders to a certain degree, uh, you it would not make a proper military. So I think, and then going further to that, Django did care about his kid. He
Yeah.
cared about Boba. That was very clear.
Yes. But
Um,
that's a reflection of the Mandalorian culture about family, right? Your
yeah,
clan is your clan, and you support the clan first and others second. Same deal with
but
family.
then you see a lot of the clone troopers also caring about the planets that they're devastating. And again, if you're cloning Django's brain,
Yeah.
I don't think you'd see that as often. Like it might still happen because I'm not saying all Mandalorians just want to pillage and destroy.
Well, we know that's
It
not
is
true. We know that a lot of them are just about preserving the nature of Mandalore as itself, right? We see that with
exactly
Satine.
well, yeah, especially after it got wiped out.
Yeah.
That's that's a big part of it. But like there's not that same sense. But there's not a sense to preserve other cultures that we've seen from except for the Mandalorian show preserving the Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think that they could have used Django's brain and seen those personality quirks
Probably
with
not.
the deviations.
Yeah, you're probably right there, and I would definitely say that we see less Mandalorian in every clone. Like they're not Mandalorians, nor were they ever meant to be though. They were
they're
just meant to be the
physically
ultimate soldier.
capable
Yeah,
of being Mandalorians,
because they
but they're
got
not.
the framework for a Mandalorian from a Mandalorian to use for this, but we
Yeah.
can see it very simply put in just the nature of their personalities. They're not Mandalorians. And we will see that throughout the entirety of Mandalorian culture moving forward as well. Like, there's going to be just so many points where you see even Mandalorians don't like other Mandalorians. Like, we see things with Death Watch, we see things with Duchess Satine Kryze and her empire and her change to pacifism for Mandalore. They're withdrawing from the Clone Wars. We see that in the Super Commandos versus Fen Rao's militia. Like, we see it everywhere moving forward. And it just goes to show this is why I actually believe that the Mandalorians, it wouldn't have been involved in like later conflicts and stuff like that. They're so busy fighting themselves that they wouldn't want to fight anybody else.
Yep, and you're right. They need that Mando Prime of some degree.
They need a unifier.
Maybe we'll see that in. Maybe that's what the whole point of the Mandalorian is that we're gonna see
the rise of the new Mandalore.
Yeah, we'll see a new Mandalore with the help of the eventually, you know, mentally capable child, you know. And
well, what I'm looking forward to is one thing that they've now officially announced is Temuera is coming back to play Boba Fett in the next season of The Mandalorian. And there's now talk that there's going to be a Boba Fett spin-off show from that. What I'm looking... Oh, yeah. That's the kind of announcements we're starting to see.
Oh, right, because Mandalorian takes place before Boba Fett dies.
Nope. 3 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. Because
right, because what am I talking about? Yeah, he doesn't die in the Sarlacc pit. I'm so stupid.
Okay, and now the part where I yell, because this is the part that I got really excited about, because I knew that motherfucker clawed his way out of the fucking Sarlacc pit. There was never a doubt in my head. That was part of the original Legends story, is Boba Fett was just like, lol, no, and got out of the Sarlacc. Yes, he ends up in the Dune Sea and has nowhere to go, but he's like, that's stupid. I'm not dying in a Sarlacc pit. I can get the fuck out of here. So he does. Yeah, and
if you can get out of a Sarlacc pit, you can get out of a desert.
Exactly. Like, there's no reason Boba Fett would have died in the pit. I stood by it when it was decanonized, and it's turned out I was right to stand by it.
Yeah.
So with Boba Fett having got himself out of there and coming back, I want to see if Clan Fett becomes the rise of the new Mandalore, and we actually get the Boba Fett rise to Mandalore story. Because that was another story that came out later, was when, in that storyline, when Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc pit in Legends, he became the new Mandalore. And he led Mandalore to an unprecedented period of prosperity in Legends. That being said, there's been now periods throughout Mandalore's history where they've had periods of prosperity. But when Boba became the Mandalore, it was a much bigger deal. Like, because he reestablishes the Mandalorian system.
But when he did that, was the planet still around?
That's correct, it was. So with the Mandalorian, we see something new.
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
And I'm thinking that in that situation, if they were to go the Boba Fett route, he'd be seeking revenge.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I think. Well, it's actually kind of hard to say, because, like, if I was Boba Fett, I wouldn't really care. I'd be like, yeah, I just want to, like, get the dude that threw me in the Sarlacc pit, and then I'll be, like, back onto my bounty hunting days, you know? Like, what motivation does Boba Fett have that we've ever seen, or Jango Fett for that matter, to do any leading in the Mandalorian culture?
There hasn't been any
in the movies.
There hasn't really been any for wanting to be involved in the Mandalorian culture, especially in the more modern canons. But let's look at, if we look at the more modern canon as well, though, we see Boba Fett wanting to lead his own bounty hunter group.
Exactly, and that's actually where I was going with this. Is that, like, yeah, he's got the desire to lead something. I don't think there's any desire, because he doesn't really follow Mandalorian creed or culture. So I don't think there's any desire.
He's never been preached Mandalorian creed or culture, though, if we look at it from that perspective as well.
He's already cemented as a grown person without having this creed. And Mandalore is, like, it's a cult, you know? Like, you need that from the start. Otherwise, you're not going to go along with it. Like, it's going to take a lot to get you, even though, like, some of their things.
I actually think that there is a way that a person can be indoctrinated into it. Like, let's look at Cara Dune from the Mandalorian series real quick. I would actually say she could very easily, if she wanted to choose to adopt the lifestyle, could easily fall in line and immediately follow it. But that's just because of the fact she has the ability, the natural ability to do so. If she herself has a clashing personality, she wouldn't. Boba Fett, on the other hand, doesn't have a clashing personality. He just doesn't have a Mandalorian upbringing. So I'd argue that he could potentially still go that route in the new series, despite the fact that, like, because in Legends we see him just fall into it and say, no, what's happening to us isn't right, and he becomes a leader because of that. I think if they're going to introduce him again, if they're going to bring him back, they're going to have to find a new way to develop him and his desire to lead, if they're even going to do that. And if they're not, we need to see what they're going to do with the character, if it's even going to remain true to the Boba Fett we've known from Legends or not. Because if we look at Legends as a massive thing that it was, because it was truly a Titanic level thing, the Legends versions of the Mandalorians were so driven by whatever desire they had. They were always really driven to do it. And
well, even in Knights of the Old Republic, like the Mandalorian mercenary groups were very driven to do what they were,
they don't stop.
Yeah.
When they have a task, they go till it's done. Yeah, and that is one thing.
To fight random Mandalorian groups all the time.
But that's the thing. Mandalorians are loyal. That's the clan thing. That's Mandalorian culture. And that is one thing that carried over from Legends into canon, was they are very, very loyal. And I love seeing that in the more canon stuff, because I've grown to associate Mandalorians with loyal soldiers who do what needs to be done until the task is done, and they are truly the perfect military force. Yeah, like, it's hands down.
Yeah. Oh no, and that's not in contention. They are absolutely the perfect military. They are space Spartans.
Yeah.
And you cannot get better than space Spartans. There's no feasible way.
I mean, the only time they got worse than being space Spartan was when they went through their pacifism phase.
Even then, like, they still had.
Well, we look at Death Watch, and Death Watch is the ultimate, like, representation of what military prowess could be for the Mandalorian people again.
Yeah.
And we got them back eventually.
Even with the pacifism, it's not like they got rid of their training regiment.
No.
They still had Mandalorian soldiers everywhere. Like, everybody was in armor all the time. It's not like they were just like, yeah, we're not going to war anymore, but it's not going to stop us from doing our general lifestyle,
Yeah. One thing I will say that I missed from the Legends comics and the Legends stuff that was true about the Mandalorian people was, like, they're kind of, through military prowess, you gained power. Like, by demonstrating effectiveness in the field, you gained power. Not just a rank, you gained power. People would be more likely to follow you, and that's how clans were established a little bit. Like, by having that level of prowess made you a clan people wanted to associate with. And
that's very Klingon.
Yeah, well, that's a great parallel, actually. Mandalorians are very Klingon-esque. Nothing wong with that.
They're just better.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I was watching Star Trek Discovery the other day. Not to deviate from Star Wars, but two quick things on that. First off, what the heck happened to the Klingons in that show? Like, their heads are like, it's really weird. Anyway, the other thing is, they got whooped by dudes that were starving. They're not great. They're just
they're just
warmongers. They're like. Yeah, they're just warmongers, but they're not bad at warmongering. They're just not great at, like, hand-to-hand somehow. Even though they're vastly superior in strength. And that could, like, but then you look at the Mandalorians, and they're just like, yeah, we're just humans. We just,
we just figured out how to win.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if we'll go back onto the Star Wars topic real quick, though, just because. We
can definitely shift away from Star Trek.
Good.
Given this is a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at, though, like, the Darksaber, let's talk about that for a second, just because we brought it up a couple times. I'd really like to zone in on this, though. We're talking about a weapon developed for war to fight against a specific enemy that they could... That is always... Sorry?
It's also a symbol.
Yeah. Oh, like, absolutely.
Like, if you relate it to battle prowess getting a clan, it basically is a clan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, whoever holds the Darksaber is the Mandalore.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple.
That's freaking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like...
But also, it works.
Swap meets in Mandalore must get very awkward if somebody screws up.
Oh, God. What's this old thing right here? I don't know. Let's put it out just like...
Granny, you're the new Mandalore?
Oh.
Why did I have that in a box in the garage?
Actually, that's something that I should bring up now, though, is they took away color definition. Like, in original Mandalorian lore, the color of your armor meant something.
I feel like they took that away in the Mandalorian show.
They took that away also, though, in Death Watch, like with Death Watch and with the planet itself. Because, like, when we look at the canon stuff, Mandalorians just wear whatever color they want. It doesn't mean anything. Sabine Wren's armor is 7 colors. They don't mean anything.
She's the whole artist thing. But I think, like if you look at Django's, his was a very clear
blue
coloring.
And silver. Yeah. But the blue and silver has a very clear meaning that he doesn't actually... It doesn't work for him. Like, I actually, at one point, I had
he
the
was
meanings memorized.
excommunicated, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Maybe
but
that's
Boba Fett as well, though, his armor didn't resemble what he would have probably believed in either. That green color doesn't work for him. Like,
well, that's because it was random. Sorry, the point I'm trying to make here is I'm wondering if they kept it in, like, prior to the prequels, and then, like, it can still be canon, and then they deviate away from it because of the political state of Mandalore. Like, there's no point to have armor colors because there's no government, you know? And the government keeps changing hands, like Italy.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm more concerned about the stuff that happened when Darth Maul became the Mandalore. The color red is usually honoring a relative or like a brother.
And just everybody went red.
Yeah. So
I mean, it did look really cool, though.
Oh, it looked dope, and I want nothing else from that. But, like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The color red means to honor a relative. And these guys are not honoring a relative. They're just wearing the color Maul likes. Yeah. So, like, they did away with the color definitions, and that's only a big deal to the people who were really into the Legends lore of it. If you talk to...
What I'm thinking is they did away with the color like, that may have been the catalyst of getting rid of color definitions. True. Now you have another change in government who goes, honoring relatives. I killed half my relatives. Get out of here, you know? That kind of idea.
I mean, Maul would always want to honor his brother, I guess, because he actually valued Savage Opress, but...
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, off that topic of coloration, if that's my only gripe about the things they changed from Legends, other than decanonizing Clan Fett, legitimately, I don't have any complaints about it. Like, the new canon stuff has done a really good job of honoring what the old stuff meant. I will admit, when they announced that Mandalore had gone pacifist in the new canon, I was a little upset. And then I got the context. And then I saw the Death Watch arc. And then I see what's happened ever since. And I'm like, oh, no, it's one political reform stage, and it works.
Yeah.
So, I want to say real quickly then, because this is the part where I would normally sum it all up, because this is truly where I stand. The Legend stuff is being honored in the new stuff. It really is. There's so many cool things about Mandalorian culture that I'm still seeing. There's one gripe I have left that I'm pretty miffed about it. Mandalorians never rode the mythosaur. They killed it. That's the Legends thing that they changed in canon that I don't like. No, that's it.
Fair.
That's literally it.
That makes them seem like pacifists to begin with.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
That's not good.
Mandalore the First killed the mythosaur with a stick.
Yeah, that's the whole, I mean, there's one, hashtag Jesus riding a dinosaur. That's its whole thing. But, it's definitely not as cool as Jesus killing a dinosaur with a stick. You know?
Like, it's so much
that's
cooler.
Way cooler.
Yeah.
And I'm all for, not murdering animals. Like, anytime a game throws, there's a lot of dogs in Dark Souls, which I hate for 2 reasons. One of which, they keep jumping. What should be the main reason, but the jumping thing, I'll be honest, at the time is definitely the main reason I hate them. But what should be the main reason is I don't like killing dogs, dude. So I get why Disney wanted to change that, because I don't, it might be a dinosaur, but
don't kill the dinosaurs.
They don't want to project the let's murder dinosaurs vibe. But at the same time, if you're gonna have a badass Mandalore, you gotta have a badass Mandalore.
Yeah. Well, that brings us up to the end of today's episode, I would say.
That's good, because I need some food.
Fair enough. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super stoked that we got to talk about Mandalore from Legends, and we talked a little bit about the canon stuff, too. Spencer, where the hell can they find you?
They can find me on the other side of this lightsaber.
Ah.
They can also find me and my business partner Mike on twitch.tv/TeamPanada. That's Panada. They can also find us under the same name on Facebook and TikTok, and at Team Panada Inc. on Instagrams.
Awesome. And I'm Liam. You can find me here, obviously, on the Another Star Wars Enthusiast podcast. You can also find me on Twitch at YesDearProductions. Twitch.tv/YesDearProductions. Follow us on Facebook through YesDear again. You can also follow the Another Star Wars Enthusiast channel on YouTube if you found me here. Fantastic. But from us here, myself and Spencer, may the Force be with you.
Goodbye there.